Welcome everyone who survived the pre-afternoon yesterday. Not too many though. Umut Varolgunes will give us second lecture on the homological symmetry for symplectic Calabi-Yau.
Yeah, so yesterday after my talk, Javi gave me a lot of good feelings and encouragement, and he encouraged me to continue with expository talks. I made my talk a little bit more expository. I will talk less about my research.
And I also thought that I didn't want to stop you to communicate.
No, I didn't say that. You forced me. I said you encouraged me. Encouraged me. Okay, so I want to say a little bit more about this kind of HMS for Batirev mirror symmetry. Mirrors. I don't want to recall you the full setup, but so you have a reflexive polytope. It's dual polar. Polytope is also reflexive. So like this, and so from this side we will we will resolve the toric variety, toric ambient funnel. Let me say funnel in different ways, and get a bunch of symplectic manifolds. So this is the data of kappa, omega kappa. Okay, so I have this toric ambient funnel. I have a hypersurface in it, but I resolve it in different ways, and that gives me my symplectic moduli. It has there is a toric divisor here. Divisor D equals toric intersect kappa, and it has some components. And from this one, okay, I'm skipping a lot of details. I hope everyone has seen this construction once before. So here we vary the coefficients. So we have the ample line bundle, and we have a basis given by lattice points, and every linear combination of those lattice points will give me a polynomial. So I vary those coefficients and get a family that I will call X star, and I will denote this guy by B kappa k. So there is also a family, and this this has its own parameters, this has its own parameters, and there is the mirror map between them that matches these parameters. So this B will be kind of my approximation for the mirror map. And these are varieties over some kind of Novikov field. And here this has so a very important aspect of this construction is this divisor has components, and these components are in one-to-one correspondence with the monomials whose coefficients I'm varying on this side. Okay? Okay, so conjecture. I will write down the conjecture as it's stated in one of the papers of Sheridan. So okay, so there is an assumption. Suppose star is simplicial. What is this? So this one, this is the moment map, and it has some. So no matter how I write this, it will become confusing. So I will write it maybe like this. So it also has a fan that lives in the dual space, which is where the dual polytope lives. So this is you just take the the one-dimensional cones in this fan are you take the origin and connect to the vertices of this polar graph. Yes?
I just have trouble reading this on the lower left. What is this?
Components?
Components.
It's the components of the divisor.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so here there's that, And if you do the same for here, they denote that by the star. I don't know, maybe I should denote this also by star. Okay, so you make an assumption that the fan of the dual polytope is simplicial. Then HMS is supposed to hold. This is how they state it. So there is quasi coulomb of lambda linear. So their Novikov field is a little bit different than mine, but I will not get into that. Z graded infinity category, and we take the perf of the Fukaya category of this xk, x kappa. Maybe I start reading a different one. X kappa. Oh. So they also put a t here to denote that this is not the. So you have a t parameter. When you take t equals to 0, you become this degenerate thing. So they don't consider the degenerate. That's why they put a t here. Let's just do it. There's no family there. The family is by kappa. And you take the dc of this, and db dg co x star d kappa. Okay, so this yesterday I wrote co dg for this, but maybe actually this is better notation anyways. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we have this perfect complexes. So this triangulated, idempotent, closed Fukaya category with bounding cochains. Okay, so it's an actually infinity category. I take this formal completion. And on the right-hand side, I have the derived category of coherent sheaves, but I take a DG enhancement of it.
So you do not assume that X dual is smooth.
So in the conjecture, no, I think. But actually, it said it followed.
It follows from the
I think-
sigma star symmetry. Right.
That's what I thought.
So it's not unilateral, all the products.
So
Simplicial.
Well, what does simplicial mean exactly? Standard simplicial or?
I think you're right. It might. I think it has orbitals in it, but it's this we're not going to prove anyway. And when we prove, we're going to make the lambda star smooth assumption, then it will be smooth. I think. So in that statement, it will be smooth.
I don't think we believe that statement if we have overflow similarities. I don't think we believe that statement if we have overflow similarities.
Yeah, I think I'm confused about this myself. Yes, I think what I see two kinds of statements. You do a resolution and replace the right-hand side with the resolution, or they take some kind of more
No, that's the problem.
complicated.
In high dimensions, you don't have this resolution.
There's no crap resolution.
There's no rapid resolution in high dimensions. So up to dimension 3, we are fine. Okay.
Okay.
So we are, maybe in this case, simplicial means it's actually you can get a smooth mirror. But starting dimension 4, I think you need something different.
I'm not saying. Yeah, I think you're right probably, but I just don't know this very well. Yeah, in their statement, it's smooth or okay. I'm gonna write down some history now. So let's say what they are a little bit more precisely. Okay, so the history of kind of proving this conjecture. Okay, so this is what I want to discuss. So first, let me just say that the Batera, so first there is kind of green pleasure and many, kind of other string theorists works in the 80s that give kind of special cases of this Batirev construction. Okay, and then Batirev paper is, I think, from '94. Please, if I'm saying something wrong, please just say if I'm saying something wrong. Okay? I prepared this last night. Yeah. So
I think that's 92.
the paper is published in '94, but I would believe it's maybe '92. Okay. But there was already a lot of kind of examples developed by physicists. So he didn't come up with this out of thin air. Okay, and then HMS was actually '94, I think, HMS. So this is Kontsevich ICM address. This is also '94. Okay, so at this point, we can start trying to prove HMS for Batirev. And the first proof of HMS for Batirev, maybe not written exactly, because it's such a simple case, just the elliptic curves. So in '98, Polishchuk Zaslow did the elliptic curves case. And so I also want to add something about the techniques from now, but they just computed. Polishchuk Zaslow, they just compute both sides, and it's not trivial to compute, but '98, that was the first step. So the second development after this was Seidel. I think in 2003. It was earlier than I thought when I looked at it. So this is the quartic K3. Okay. And so when I say, so I'm always kind of writing the A side. Okay, the mirror is this mirror quartic. So when I write this, I'm saying that the HMS, where the A side is quartic and the B side is the mirror quartic, then this is proved. You also have the statement on the other side, which wasn't proved in this paper. Okay, so here, maybe I think this is the first. So Paul already started developing this deformation strategy where you kind of look at the first, remove a divisor, look at the large volume limit, compute the category of the complement, and deform that, and try to deduce the actual HMS statement from there. You first compute some degenerate things, and then you deform, match that the deformation, like the deformations of the two sides match. And usually in this strategy, you don't actually know kind of what point in the moduli maps to what point. You just know that there is some point in the moduli. And then you can work more and then compute the mirror map and so on as well. But this, just at its most basic level, just finds you a point in the mirror moduli where the invariants match. Okay. And so in order to apply this, you need to compute. So by a large volume limit, I always mean that you choose a divisor and remove it, an ample divisor and remove it. You still have to compute that Fukaya category. This is not trivial. And he used the Lefschetz vibration techniques for this. And it's very long. His computation, he uses computers to do this. It's very long. And maybe another thing that I want to say is that here, you only the relevant moduli spaces are just one-dimensional. So to match the deformations, you only need to show that the deformation is non-trivial. If you show that the deformations are non-trivial on both sides, it's almost automatic that there is some change of parameters that matches the category. So they're both one-dimensional deformations. And so you just need to show, so mainly, so you need to show that deformations are non-trivial. Okay? And so the last thing that I want to say is that whenever you have an HMS statement, I think one needs to first look at the most striking thing about this kind of statement is how, like, we don't know anything about Lagrangians inside X. But somehow we're saying something about all Lagrangians, some object that has information about all Lagrangians. So this always requires some kind of generation statement. So yesterday I wrote the most kind of latest version of that, this automatic transversality. This kind of, you find a smooth subcategory and so on. So that's how. Did I say transversality again? I just keep making this mistake. Automatic generation. I meant to say automatic generation. Okay, so you find the smooth subcategory, homological the smooth subcategory, and it automatically split generates the category. So here he doesn't use that. That doesn't exist yet. He uses this kind of technique that he really developed in his book and so on, that you kind of look at some spherical twists, some composition of spherical twists. Twists is, okay, I'll write this, but it's not. So you find a collection of kind of Lagrangian spheres. You show that if you make a number of twists around all of them, then you don't get back identity, but you get some shifted version of identity. Actually, he doesn't. He uses something more general than that, but I'll say it like that. Okay. And then if you find such, if you have these Lagrangians with those twists, and you apply it to an object, and something happens to the object, so it gets shifted by maybe in the category, it gets shifted by some non-zero integer, then you say that you can conclude that that object is generated by those Lagrangian spheres. It's an algebraic argument. So he uses that in this paper. You seem upset.
No, I'm not.
Yeah?
No, I'm not. Oh, good.
And I just really want to stress this. The computation is really long, but it's self-contained. Everything is in one paper. Except that he has to write a book. Okay. But
In one book.
But he did everything. He completed the entire project. And now is a good time to make this comment, I think. So remark, when the dimension of our manifold, symplectic manifold, omega is smaller than 4, and we consider Maslow zero Lagrangians, we can avoid curvature and just and consider Fuk M that is kind of uncurved. So this is a dimension count. Okay, if you, I don't know, if you have a Lagrangian in your manifold, okay, we're trying to find some some holomorphic spheres with boundary on this Lagrangian. Okay, that's what leads to curvature. So in this dimension, under this assumption, you can prove that for a generic J, there actually is not such a holomorphic disk with boundary on L. So this generality. So in this case, I always work with Lagrangians with their kind of nice generic J's, which makes them not bound any holomorphic disks. And this curvature is not an issue. Okay. If you want to go to higher dimensions, then you start having to incorporate curvature in your discussion. Okay, so then the next development was in 2011 by Sheridan. So, okay, there's usually a very big gap between the first time the archived version appears and the published, so I'm putting the archived version. Okay, the first posting. Like this one, for example, wasn't published until like 2013 or 14, something like this. Because he had to first write the book and then he published it. so I think
Did it really take that long? I don't recall it. Did it really take that long? I don't recall it. Anyway,
so.
Yeah.
Yes. So Sheridan, he did. So he generalized so this is the Calabi-Yau hypersurface in CP3. He did Calabi-Yau hypersurfaces in higher dimensional CPNs. So Calabi-Yau and inside CP hypersurface inside CPN plus 1 for n bigger than or equal to.
Maybe it's worth mentioning Seidel published the genus 2 curve before that. And it's a very short paper. And it has the entire program also worked out. It's a very nice one. That was in around 2007 or 2008.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn about it, like this is maybe too much to read, but the genus 2 curve is a very short paper. And it's beautiful. Genus 2 curve, mirror symmetry with genus 2 curve.
I'm not talking about that because that's not a Calabi-Yau.
According to Ivan Smith, it's Paul's most beautiful paper.
Yes, and in fact, yeah, it's influenced this as well. I think this Sheridan's work, but I think this strategy was already in his ICM address even before. Okay, so here some things have changed. So now for this, so now again we have to do so we're going to apply the deformation strategy again. So it's all of these are proved with the deformation strategy. All of these the proofs that I will the results that I will say from now on. But you still have to compute something at large volume limit. And here now the strategy is to compute something about the special immersed Lagrangian. And this is called like, sometimes they call it Seidel Sheridan Lagrangian or something. Sheridan exact immersed Lagrangian. So there's just this one Lagrangian that you can do a computation and it kind of generates everything.
Are those Lagrangian the higher dimensional pair?
Yeah, so it's you first do the computation with the pair of pens and then you do some kind of covering trick. So maybe let me write it like this in higher dimensional pair of pens. Well, pair of pens of all dimensions.
And that same trick is already in genus 2 curve.
Yes, yes, that's what I was trying to say. Yes. Pair of pens of all dimensions, and of course the complement is not actually a pair of pens, but it's kind of a cover of it. So then you have to use some covering argument. And
what is a pair of pens in higher dimension? Is it also a sphere minor or higher sphere minus some points? Or
take Pn minus the boundary and an extra hyperplane.
PM
You
minus.
take projective space, remove the coordinate hyperplanes, and remove one additional hyperplane.
So this is CP1, you remove 2, you get the cylinder, you remove 1 more, you get the normal pair of ends.
Thank you.
So in general, you remove CPn minus n plus 2 hyperplanes.
I know that this person's name is appearing all the time, but could you please spell?
Sheridan?
Yeah. How? Sheridan. Thank you.
Yes, it's Abouzaid's student. This was his PhD thesis. Okay, and yeah, so Sheridan in this paper also kind of really started using this kind of extra data that's present, like gradings and so on. So this was there was some emphasis on the extra gradings. And this extra grading kind of becomes actually useful through this like monomial divisor correspondence. It allows you to kind of split up different directions. Okay, and here the generation, I think he refers to Abouzaid generation criterion, which is a subject that maybe you heard its name. I'm not going to introduce it. It's another method to show generation. Uses the open-closed method. Okay.
And for this covering argument, you need the covering not to be regular, or you can also have branching.
You have to look at the paper. So I can't. It's not like you just take the color and it works. You have to.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a serious argument. Okay, and then come to, as far as I know, we come to 2017, and then there is Sheridan Smith, right? That's the correct order. Sheridan Smith.
You keep missing the R in Sheridan.
I don't, it's there. You just don't see it. Okay, yeah, so this, so I'll write what they wrote, and without explaining, I'll just say something concrete. So this is generalized green Fleischer mirrors. So in particular, it's not just for hypersurfaces. It has some complete intersections as well, which are not hypersurfaces. So it's kind of a subset of Batira-Borisov. But what I will say here is that it covers the other direction of this. Okay, it uses the B side of this as the A side and the A side of this as the B side and proves that. And for this, so here we also have one-dimensional deformation. So that we have to consider. The family is one-dimensional. So for this, you need to consider higher dimensional families now. And this requires now higher dimensional parameter deformations are involved. And for this, Sheridan develops this versality package. And, this is a separate paper. Versality or relative Fukaya categories, something like this. So that's where the technical work is done. You deal with the large volume limit in the same way, using the same Lagrangian. and covering arguments. But you can deal with this higher dimensional parameter spaces because now there is some more technology that's developed. Okay, and here we start using automatic generation. In fact, this paper has this kind of nice part. Other papers also have this, where you write kind of axiomatic properties of the Fukaya category. So from this point onwards, there is a tendency in the symplectic, at least this kind of Paul Seidel, Denis Arroux, this crowd, to work with the axioms that are satisfied by that are supposed to be satisfied by the Fukaya category. This kind of becomes I don't know, more influential. And there's a list of axioms in this paper. List of axioms, which in particular imply this automatic generation criterion, but it involves like open-close map, closed-open maps, how they interact with each other, and various structures. Okay. And in fact, the paper just says that if there exists a Fukaya category that satisfies this list of axioms, then it satisfies homological mirror symmetry. That's what it does. And at this point, actually, there is no Fukaya category that satisfies those lists of axioms. Now this paper of Perutz Sheridan, right? The R is here. Perutz Sheridan, they constructed this relative Fukaya category and proved some of these axioms. Not all of them, still, I think. Still, not all of them are proved. But this is, later. Still, things not fully finished. For example, this paper of Sanda or Ganatra, they also say, okay, we have this list of axioms. We will prove automatic generation criterion starting from this list of axioms. This started becoming a thing, like this kind of.
Not fully finished, you mean the proof of all the axioms? Or?
Proof of all the axioms, yes. Not fully finished for this. Okay, and then I think in 2024, was this paper of Ganatra, Higgs, and Perutz, and not Perutz, no Perutz in this one, sorry. But P. Pomeliano. Pomeliano and Sheridan. Yeah, and in this paper, it's a statement that I will write. So theorem, and suppose that this x dimension divided c dimension, so x t kappa equal than or equal to 3. I think this is from a big kind of overview, this is not such an important assumption. They just can't deal with low dimensions because something special happens about deformations, and they don't really try to deal with it. I think that's probably why they don't have Okay. But now there are some more assumptions. So, and let me write this one. The condition on characteristic is satisfied. This thing that in the conjecture it was assumed to be simplicial is smooth. And the MPCS and connectedness holds. Hold. Okay. Then one, there is a fully faithful embedding DPEG co X star E kappa perf Fuk BC. Okay, I'm gonna cut it at this point. Tx E kappa omega kappa. One more. Okay, so it doesn't. The conjecture said that these were quasi-equivalent. So this part, first part of the statement says that it just embeds. And the second part is assuming that list of axioms hold, so the same ones from there, then conjecture A holds, so the HMS conjecture holds with relative height. Okay, so there's a number of things to say. Some of them I can say, and some of them I can't say. At least, yeah. So let me just start with this one. The condition on characteristic is, look. So in these last versions of this, last iterations of this method, they started being able to work over the integers. Okay, so we don't have to have a characteristic zero field anymore, because this relative Fukaya category. Well, one reason is this relative Fukaya category can actually be defined over the integers, because it doesn't really use virtual techniques to define. And therefore, assuming some numerical conditions, they can actually get statements over the integers. So that's what this characteristic is about. In fact, they have another paper by the same authors. There's a paper that's like arithmetic mirror symmetry or something, where they actually compute the mirror map and show that it has integer coefficients in some cases.
Assuming the HMS conjecture holds
So I had Fuk written there, right? So it's not the Fuk with all Lagrangians, but it's the Fuk with, you choose a divisor, you look at exact Lagrangians, you record intersections with the divisor. So for that second version of Fukaya category, it holds.
B size is the same.
Yeah, B size is the same. I mean, it's just, so this one should also be, maybe I put that here. It's misleading. Let me put this D here. So I just didn't want to say HMS conjecture holds because I wrote the conjecture with just Fukaya category. So now kind of there's a shift that we don't even try to prove. They don't even try to prove it for the usual expected Fukaya category, they only prove it for this relative Fukaya category. They're kind of satisfied with that. But if you develop Fukaya category and also prove the list of axioms and prove automatic generation, it will also follow that we can recover that by automatic generation. Yeah, so the reason why they split it into these two parts, I think it's this one, they have everything that they need. That they need to prove this statement, like actually written. And for this one, you need automatic generation, and some things are missing from that, so they write it as a separate statement. Okay, some other things. So I think this smoothness is I think this was why the question was being asked. It's a serious assumption. For example, if I'm not wrong, and I realized this last night, unfortunately, they didn't say it in the paper. This is not satisfied for the quartic K3, for example. So this theorem actually doesn't cover the quartic K3 because there the fan is like this. So in one dimension lower, this is the fan. It's superficial but not smooth.
But you would resolve.
Yeah, so that's not what they do.
I thought the problem is really when you have these orbifolds and they say something about
So this smoothness is used.
Version of
No, that also exists, but that's about this condition.
Yes.
Maybe you could do it with something weaker than that. So that's about the A side singularities. This is about the B side singularities. So if you could define an orbifold Fukaya category, then you could relax this condition. But this is this probably you shouldn't have this condition. This condition is
So the
weakness of the
on
statement.
the B side, they're not allowed to resolve. They cannot resolve again. That's what they say. Otherwise, you could just subdivide B side.
Well, I'm not sure what not allowed to mean.
In their
Their
technology.
proof relies on making this assumption.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and this is also not completely innocent. This corresponds in terms of polytopes. It corresponds to kind of. So what should I say? So either for every face, let me just make sure that I say it correctly. Just I got confused now. For every one-dimensional face of the dual polytope, either there shouldn't be any internal lattice points along that edge, or I think it says that, or in the. Okay, let me leave this. But I got confused. I thought it was saying that for the so it says either on one of the polytopes you don't have an interior lattice point, or in the corresponding codimension one face there is no internal lattice point. I'm understanding it right now, but it seems too strong. So let's put a question mark on here. But it's not completely innocent assumption. Okay. And so any questions about this? Maybe not for me, but for the other people in the audience. Okay. So for this paper, the main new development is this GPS. It's a paper of Ganatra. Who's the P? Pardon, Ganatra, Pardon, and Shande. So they now, if you have a large volume, if you remove the divisor, you have this large volume limit. then you can compute the wrapped Fukaya category of that, in some cases using this kind of local to global machinery, using sheaves. So that's new. And they used that plus more to deal with the right that, so large volume. You do it like this. Small d, this is isomorphic to dd, dg, co of x star 0. So now we're looking at the singular fiber. The toric boundary. And this is by GPS. And I think the actual computation is maybe done by Kuwagaki and Shande, Gamage Shande to prove this statement. But it's not enough for us because, at least the way they write it in the paper and the way I presented it, we can't start with wrapped Fukaya category. We need to start with the Fukaya category of compact exact Lagrangians. So then inside here, they find a kind of a subcategory of compact exact Lagrangians, and these compact exact Lagrangians are exactly Bern's Lagrangians. So you have a Lagrangian section, and then you kind of apply something like the monodromy to it, even though they don't say it like that. And they proved they show that these Lagrangian spheres correspond to some powers of the anti-canonical bundle on the singular space. This.
What is the X star?
So this is the central fiber of the dual family. So it's the large complex structure limit. Okay, and then we use versality and continue. Okay, I had a statement of versality here, but I'm not going to write it. So the versality statement that they use is also a little bit different from the other GHHPS paper. So this part also changed a little bit from Sheridan's versality paper. Maybe let me illustrate some simple example, just the elliptic curve example. So in the elliptic curve example,
Is this a theorem or is it
which one?
this board here? What is this? A theorem or
Which one? Which
middle board?
So this is a theorem that was proved by other people already.
The same assumption as before.
Yeah, it's so here you have this x kappa omega k with the toric divisor removed, and here you have the central fiber of the mirror family. Okay, so in the case of let's say we have an elliptic curve, so then symplectically kind of the divisor is a number of points. Take 3 points. Okay, well, let me not do it like that. Okay, so I didn't do a good job at drawing. Let me draw this picture in a more workable way. Okay, we have this, and we remove, say, 3 points. And then we compute, we find a kind of a workable primitive in the complement of these. And that has a skeleton something like this. So you have this kind of compact piece, this section piece, and then you have these this is part of this is the skeleton. Okay, but they don't work with they work with a sectorial cover of this. So sectorial cover is a cover of the complement that roughly looks like this. You remove kind of in the complement a non-compact thing. Okay, so you have this kind of strange shape here too. And so now you have this like three sectors grouped together along these these are also some kind of sectors. Okay, so I'm not giving you all the details. So these guys are mirror to a CP1. Okay, by a mirror, but this is like really a categorical statement. I mean that this has some kind of Fukaya category that's equivalent to the derived category of coherent sheaves on this. Okay, that's the sense in which they are mirror. Computation, and these guys, these intersections are mirror to points. So then kind of their statement says that, okay, there's a local to global statement that says the overall category, the global category is these three P1s attached along 3 points, which is the essential fiber of the mirror family.
That's in Zaslow collaborated, right?
Yeah. So this is a very simple case. This is a.
So this attach is a wedge or is a transversal intersection?
It's a transversal intersection. A complex curve. An algebraic curve. It doesn't have to be complex. Okay, and then you run the versality, and but you also have to kind of go from here to here as well, and it all works out. Okay, so as kind of we kind of discussed, this is not over yet. There are these assumptions that should be lifted, but now
These two boards were the sketch of the proof in the paper, or
yes,
that
sketch of the proof in the paper. Yes. It follows. There is a section called the sketch of the proof, and it's very easy to read. You can read that. Yeah. So now let me make a remark that this kind of A0 equals B0 part. So Shande seems to be generalized by some very recent paper of Shande, which appeared after this, so maybe like 2 months ago or something. It's good because I would recommend that you look at, there's a remark at the end of the introduction, which is his take on what's left to prove Gross-Siebert, mirror symmetry for Gross-Siebert toric degenerations in general. And that's the next goal now. Now, if we're trying to prove homological mirror symmetry, we should prove it for Gross-Siebert toric degenerations. And I think many people are working on this, including the man himself, as we heard. So I think the goal now is to prove HMS for Gross-Siebert toric generation setup, which we know generalizes this Batirev and Batirev also. And yeah, so maybe just I have five minutes, right? Something like this. 6 minutes. Okay. So one thing that I wanted to add is there are more symplectic techniques in addition to Gross-Siebert construction to produce mirrors. Okay, so there are other mirror construction techniques that give an HMS functor, so something like this, Fukaya into co, so maybe I add M into co and dual, and a bi-construction. And now Grant will object to me. He will say it's also by construction in Gross-Siebert, but I don't think so. So I don't want to accept this. So it's not. You can construct a natural functor, which he described, but I don't think it's there by construction. You have to find the Lagrangians, isolate, and so on. It's here. You can like in these constructions. One of the goals is that if you're given a Lagrangian, you know just where it goes by construction. There's a formula for the coherent sheaf that it should go to. And I could also say this more colloquially as, at least how I think of it is what are the rings that, or maybe algebras, that Gross-Siebert are gluing symplectically. So they're gluing these things, and they always say, oh, it's some generalization of toric geometry, and so that's probably very kind of satisfying if you're a toric geometer or something close, but for a symplectic geometer, it's not that. It feels like there should be an intrinsic meaning of those rings as well, of those algebras as well. They should correspond to something symplectic. And I think the first try to make this precise is family Floer. I mean, of course, there is the really early SYZ history, which influenced the Gross-Siebert construction. But now that we're trying to be really precise. So one try is family Floer. And for this, you given some kind of, I'll write weak SYZ fibration. And maybe comment on it a little bit. Build a mirror non-Archimedean SYZ or affinoid torus vibration. That's right, more precise. Torus vibration over the smooth regular part of the base, integral affine base. So this can be done. So they're able to do this, I will say. So let's put Fukaya, Abouzaid, 2, Hangyuan. I think these are all the names. And so why am I not just saying a Maslow zero torus vibration or something? Because here there is one tricky point that needs to be resolved. So this mirror is constructed by kind of gluing something related to the Morar-Cartan elements, the bounding cochains associated to these smooth fibers. Okay? So what you need to justify is that actually every element of H1 is a bounding cochain. It satisfies the Morar-Cartan equation. You have to justify that because we can't have curvature here. So in order to justify that, there is an argument of Fukaya, which was later kind of revisited by Tonkonog, Konog, Shelukin, and Vienna. That's a kind of an interesting argument that shows that you can't have this, like, all of these Morra-Cartan elements they exist. They satisfy the Morra-Cartan equation, but it requires some like, for example, these guys require that the discriminant locus lie in codimension 2, for example. This was an assumption. So what you have to be able to do is to kind of be able to start at a smooth point and go in some direction indefinitely, something like this.
I think there is a gap in there.
Yeah, they removed it. So, but I put this one because at least they had something at some point. And Fukaya's argument was never actually anywhere in the literature. So I think so. As far as I know, Fukaya's argument was communicated by, maybe I missed it, I don't know. But they wrote something and then people complained there was a gap, they removed it. Mohammed thinks it's okay. But this is a necessary thing for this approach to work, because otherwise, okay, you can glue these Morra-Cartan moduli spaces, but they might be very small. You have to show that they're full dimensional to get a mirror that you expect. Let me just say this one. So two problems with this. So singularities, so singular fibers. There's a lot of work about how to deal with the singular fibers and complete the mirror family. But again, I think there's nothing really written, but a lot of ongoing work. And the last one is that there is a natural HMS functor, but not clear why it should be fully faithful, or cohomologically fully faithful. And so again, you always need to prove some kind of generation. It must come from somewhere. And here Abouzaid did this program for just no corrections case. So MB, just full Tian fibration, Lagrangian Tian fibration. He did it, and he had to work really hard to prove this fully faithful point. This is kind of the main work in his 300-page, I don't know, something like this. Okay, and I am done. I only didn't talk about my work. So see, it's real power. Okay.
But maybe yours.
What?
Maybe.
Okay, so, yeah, let me.
That thanks.